Okay, part 4. I like to use the acronym AWAP. AWAP. Air compressor, water pump, alternator, power steering. AWAP. So from here, I'm going to go to my air compressor. You guys cannot really see it, but this is my air compressor back here. You can't see it, but I'm looking at anything that's connected. I don't hear any leaks. I see that it's mounted down to the truck correctly. None of my hoses are bulging or doing anything that make me say, hey, this thing is not working. You can't see it that great, but you also don't hear any fluid leaking or anything that makes you know it's broken. This is my water pump. It is belt driven. It's mounted correctly to the truck. Everything consisting of that, I'm just going to follow with. Anything on the belt, we're looking at. We want to make sure that the belt doesn't have more than 1 inch of play, not too much play, not too loose. Anything that's on the belt you want to check. There's not dry rotted, they're not frayed. It's screwed down and mounted correctly to the truck. And while I'm at it, I'm going to look at anything that's connected with the water system. I'm looking at my hoses to make sure that they're connected correctly, they're not leaking or unmounted or jacked up on the truck. I'm looking at anything that has a hose, anything that has a belt, and anything that's screwed down that is not leaking, frayed, or welded or cracked or anything like that. I see that all of my hoses are connected. I looked at my air compressor. I looked at my water pump. The belt's connected to the water pump. I'm looking at my reservoir. I see that it's correct. I'm doing a pre-trip. It's just about safety. I want my truck to work the way it's supposed to, and it's looking thus far like it is. So from that side, I know that I did everything. One last thing I would just throw in there as a caveat for you is when checking your tires, you hear that? That is the sound of a tire that is not flat. Believe me, you will know when it's flat because it will not make that sound. So I done did everything in sequence. If you go back on my previous videos, you'll see. But in this part 4, I talked about my air compressor back there working correctly and mounted in. Same thing I said about everything else. I talked about my water pump. I talked about the belts. I talked about anything connected to that subject. Making sure my fluid levels are correctly. This is what you would do. It doesn't take that long if you know what you're looking to do. So now you just caught one side of the truck. I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to give you part 5, which is an indication of the other things that you need to check while under your hood. The other thing I'll throw as a caveat again is I will check my oil levels. It's your job to check your oil levels. Make sure you don't break this truck. You can fill your oil up at this point right here. Real simple.